Welcome to day two of the Centre Court MBA Festival with Poets and Quants. My name is Matt Symonds, Director of Fortune Admissions and co-host with John Byrne, the Editor-in-Chief at Poets and Quants, of this wonderful, busy, insightful, engaged two-day festival. You can catch up on everything that was shared and said from yesterday. We had career services directors, admissions directors, and some extraordinary alumni from the world's top business schools. So they've set the bar very high for day two, but I know with the three guests that I have for the first panel of the day, we're going to push that bar even higher. It's a great pleasure to welcome Amy Jamson-Brennan. Amy is the Executive Director of Recruitment Admissions and now just stepping into the careers role at the Rotterdam School of Management, Erasmus University. Dialing in not from Kuala Lumpur, where the school has an extraordinary campus in Malaysia, but Dong Wook Lee is from the Asia School of Business, which has this wonderful partnership with MIT Sloan. Dong Wook is Senior Director of Career Development Office. And then Dr. Catherine Duggan, who impressed me so much last year. I put her name forward as one of the most influential women in business education. Catherine is the Director and the Dean of the University of Cape Town and their Graduate School of Business. Thank you, all three of you. As we said, typical for Centre Court, here we are with time zones all over the world. And of course, you attract students from all over the world. I'd like to perhaps start just with sharing a little bit about your schools, their cultures, the wonderful strengths that they have, and then we'll get into the value of an MBA for the students and the extraordinary things that they're achieving. But Amy, perhaps I can turn to you and tell us a little bit of the magic of RSM.
Yeah, thanks for having me here today. RSM is the leading business school in the Netherlands and usually in the top of Europe. We've been around for 50 years. We're known for being one of Europe's most international and innovative business schools. We're located in the port of Rotterdam, which is the second largest city in the country. And so we have a lot of ties with a lot of businesses in the harbors and a lot of other industries. Unilever is also, for example, located in Rotterdam. And we really, our students really interact with a lot of the businesses in the area. We do a lot of projects with them. They come and actively recruit our students on campus. We have a lot of fairs and events where a lot of schools come to. And something I think that sets us apart from a lot of other business schools, it's our mission to be a force for positive change in the world. So we're really dedicated to the UN sustainability goals. And that really comes back in our curriculum. So we tend to attract students who really want to make a force for positive change. So a lot of them end up in places like NGOs and things like that. So.
Yeah, and that's been something your focus on the 17 SDGs is decades long. And I know it goes through students, staff, faculty, campus, everything, really part of the imprint of the school. Happy birthday for your 50 years and everything that you've achieved. AACSB is a little younger, Dong Wook, but you've already achieved incredible things. Poets identified you as one of the top MBA programs in Asia. Tell us a little bit about the school and, of course, this relationship that you enjoy with MIT Sloan.
Thanks, Matt. So, as you said, we were established in 2015. We're a very young school. We actually call ourselves a startup business school. So we're very entrepreneurial in nature and experiential and experimental as well. So as you know, that we are a collaboration between the Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara, and MIT Sloan School of Management. And with that partnership, we started in 2015, and we've now reached our sixth cohort going forward, and we're expanding. Our school is based on the mission of building and nurturing principled and transformative leaders for the emerging world. So that is our main goal. And we have students from all around the world joining us. Approximately 60 to 70% of our student population are international. Let alone our faculty being over 90% coming from around the world as well. Because of the opportunity we had to have a new curriculum set up from the very beginning and not be bound by legacies, we put in a very unique structure of bringing in experiential learning to our MBA curriculum, where we call it action learning, brought in by the MIT Action Learning Program, but we call ourselves action learning on steroids. because a third of our curriculum is based on action learning, where the students go out and travel and are parachuted into different companies and businesses around the region to tackle live business problems. And they come back to take their courses with our MIT faculty. And also, they have opportunities to go to MIT to study there as well during their course. I'm actually currently dialing in from Dubai in the UAE, where we do a lot of treks. So as head of the career office, we bring our students over to different parts of the world as well, aside from action learning, to expose them to different employers and business and industry leaders to get better insights and understanding of where they are. This time around, actually, we're not bringing students, but I brought alums because they're class of 21 who couldn't attend the trek because of the COVID pandemic. So we're honoring our promise and bringing them over and doing the same thing we would as students. But that's in a nutshell.
We should always keep our promises, shouldn't we, Dongwook? And thank you. Perhaps the phone screen next time will have all of those alums in the background behind you, but there will be alums from ASB, from University of Cape Town and from RSM that are joining us in close to an hour. Catherine, your career that's taken you to teaching at Harvard Business School, Oxford's Saïd Business School. So you've known great institutions, but we're really excited to join UCT. Tell us about the school and where that excitement stems from.
Sure. I like to say that at the UCT GSB, we shape the leaders who are shaping the future. Basically, what we are committed to is a combination of sustainability, of impact, and of really understanding complex environments. And I tell people, just to sort of answer your question about why I'm here, I tell people that for the rest of their lives, and certainly for the rest of their careers, every region of the world except Africa is going to be aging and shrinking. Africa is the region which has the largest number of young people. And if you believe, and I certainly do, that good ideas, new markets, new ways of doing things come from young people, then Africa is going to be one of the places increasingly where we see both opportunities and also challenges in the future. And we are the leading business school in Africa. We are one of the leading business schools in emerging markets and certainly in frontier markets. And our students really understand how to dig into these complicated issues. And then within our MBA, we really specialize in having a very international, very flexible MBA, which is really focused on a combination of, again, impact, sustainability, but also value for money, and ensuring that our students have this extraordinary transformative experience in Cape Town. And then whether they decide to stay in Cape Town, South Africa, in the rest of the continent of Africa, or go anywhere in the world. And many of our alumni, some of whom I think are coming on after this, who have gone to the Netherlands, to Dubai, to the US and elsewhere, that they really have an opportunity to bring what they've learned both about this incredible growing continent as well as about doing hard things in challenging environments into a world that I think, for better and for worse, we can all agree is only becoming more challenging and more complex.
And some of us are aging and shrinking. I see that with my 25-year-old sons, now much, much taller than I am. All three of you have just done a wonderful job, perhaps, to capture a philosophy, a personality of an institution, whether it's the startup culture, a commitment to the SDGs, thinking about the future and transformation. Perhaps, Amy, I can take that and think about the sort of students that you therefore attract. Do employers often say to you, this is what we love about RSM students. They have that sense of responsible leadership, a force for positive change, as you like to frame it.
Yeah, they definitely do. Another thing that they often talk about when they think of our students is that they really become out-of-the-box thinkers because they've been in a sort of a melting pot of so many different nationalities. For example, the 2022 cohort had 152 different nationalities, quite a good mix on male, female. And they really learn how to work together in a multicultural environment. So yeah, they really enjoy their creativeness and their teamwork.
For the last 12 or 13 years, Amy, perhaps even beyond, you've asked tens of thousands of people to develop an I will statement.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it and what that says about the culture of the school and the students.
Yeah, it's actually a really, really nice initiative, I think. We have our students from both the MBAs, but also all our pre-experience programs. We invite them in the first couple of weeks that they're studying with us to have their photograph taken, a black and white photograph, and then develop an I will statement, because we really believe that if you want to become a force for positive change, then you need to learn to think in, sort of a can do, how will I do things attitude. So we ask our students to come up with an I will statement. So, for example, my statement for the admissions office was, I will recognize talent, for example. So, it's sort of a one-liner, and you see all over campus, all over the business school, these portraits of our students, and because we've been doing it for quite a while, it's really sort of a theme through the business school. So, and a lot of students use their photograph and their I will statement on their CV and stuff. So it's really a kind of a cool thing.
Similarly, Dongwook, the way that you've anchored action learning, and perhaps with the class of 21 that you're currently traveling with in Dubai, is there that sense, with ASB students, they roll up their sleeves. I think you've got a beehive of entrepreneurship on the ground floor that reflects this sense of doing.
Absolutely. I mean, it comes from the originating, I think, philosophy has come from MIT Sloan philosophy of mind and hand, mens et manus, which is a motto of MIT, and kind of putting the heart into it as well. But I mean, for example, we have our alums here who are already employed around the world, and they've joined us to take part in this long overdue trek. But we put in different themes, so they don't understand just business or industry, but also the culture, the people, also the landscape of how the politics work with business. So we actually came in through Abu Dhabi, and we just arrived in Dubai this hour ago. And what we did in Abu Dhabi was we visited the presidential palace. We met with business leaders at Hub 71, the entrepreneurial incubator there. And then we've understood how things work in that part of the world. And then, of course, in Dubai, it's a different city, a different landscape as well. While we were in Abu Dhabi, what was interesting was ADIPEC, the Abu Dhabi International Energy and Petroleum Conference, which is the largest energy conference in the world. We took part in it, and our students got to be exposed to different companies, different agendas, different seminars and talks to get a better understanding of how the world is decarbonizing and what businesses are doing. So those are areas that we look for, especially with Dubai having the COP28 coming up soon. And I think, Catherine, you have a lot probably to say about that side, but we also use this as an opportunity to actually be there, get our feet wet, roll up our sleeves, as you said, and get the students exposed to what's really happening with the businesses and what they're thinking. And that gives them the opportunity to have more content and context of how they want to prepare themselves for the market.
The University of Cape Town, Catherine, has a world-class reputation. The GSB is one of the few African business schools ranked by the FT or triple accredited. So when you describe that wonderful, youthful energy and the sense of possible, that's also then combining with the sort of academic rigor that's very much a tradition of the institution.
Yes, absolutely. And when we think about what it is that our students are learning in class, we are combining a real hands-on approach. And again, there are plenty of real-world challenges here that our students roll up their sleeves and dig into and really benefit from seeing the ways in which companies are managing, again, in complex environments. We also have all of our students taking leadership throughout the entire program in different ways. They learn how to lead self. They do a very reflective course on understanding themselves as leaders, especially in very complex communities and very complex environments. And then they work on leading teams, leading high-performing teams, and then understanding at an organizational level how to really drive success. And the thing that our employers talk about a lot is that our students really understand how to see things that other people don't see. And I tell my MBA students this all the time. If you go into your MBA and only learn what you're supposed to learn, then you haven't gotten as much out of the program as you should have. Instead, what I want my students to do is to get out of it not only what they're supposed to get out of it, but also also to put that together with their own unique worldview, their own unique sense based on who they are and what they've seen, so that they can see opportunities and challenges and ways of doing things that no one else has seen. Because ultimately, that's how you create value, and that is how you create value both for an organization, but also how you end up with an employer, with a leader of a company seeing you as the critical piece in a system, the critical person who is going to be able to drive value for that organization. That's one of the things that I'm really committed to ensuring our MBA students, and in fact, students across all of our programs, are able to do, is to be that critical person who's able to drive change, whether that change is happening in Cape Town, whether it's happening in Kenya, whether it's happening in Malaysia or in New York.
Is it tangible, Catherine, when you see your students arriving and with this empowerment, to see things perhaps others aren't? When you then look as they graduate, and no doubt in the years that follow, is it something that really strikes you?
Absolutely. It's actually remarkable how many people from our institution have gone on to develop really large companies. One of the things that I like to say is that doing business in Africa is like playing video games on hard mode, because you're doing all the same things that people around the world are doing, but you're having to be smarter and faster and more agile. And that translates really well into our alumni who've seen that, whether they're from Africa, whether they're from South Africa. When they come to our school, they see that in action, and then they go wherever they're going to end up. And in many cases, they're ending up in several countries throughout their careers, and they end up building big organizations. One of our alumni built Investec, which is a major European investment bank. Another of our alumni really was the person who built Star Television, which is a major satellite TV provider in Asia. And that was after he really helped to drive mobile penetration in Africa. So our alumni go out, they make big bets on things, and a lot of the time those bets have not only been right, but they've actually changed the way that entire continents in some cases are doing business. The way in which mobile telephony came into Africa, very much driven by some of our alumni, is an excellent example of that.
My daughter June Rainbow is always pushing me to play Mario Kart on the more difficult modes. I'll obviously have to adopt a GSB mindset for that one. Now, there's a wonderful opportunity here. Here we have 3 world-class business schools, one in Europe, one in Africa, and one in Southeast Asia. We've been talking in the last 24 hours of the festival of perhaps a tougher job market this year, in part because in 2021-22, there was almost over-hiring that was going on, and how things are sort of settling and nuances within different industries. So if I can, in turn, just find out from each of you, what you've seen for the class of 2023, industries and their appetite for your graduates, and perhaps how you see that evolving in the years ahead. Amy, what are you seeing from a European perspective?
Well, in the Netherlands, the moment, the job market is actually still pretty hot. So a lot of companies are fighting over graduates, to be honest. So that's a good sign for our graduates. A lot of times I have multiple offers. About 73% have a job before they graduate. And within 3 months, 92.6 had a job. And this is a 2022 cohort, obviously, because the new cohort is just going to graduate. But we don't really see signs of slowing down at the moment in the Netherlands. We do see that the sectors are changing. So, for example, where in the past, a lot of our students wanted to go into the financial services industry, we're now, and the consulting industry was also very, very top. And now we're seeing more students lean towards, starting their own companies, being more entrepreneurial, and going into, the sustainability things. Those are things that are becoming really, really bigger pullers of our students, I think, at the moment.
Right. And I think later on in the session together, I'd like to look at not just that first job out of the MBA program, but of course all the work that your teams are doing to prepare this as a stepping stone for the second, third positions and the sort of leadership roles that they will go on to take. Dongwook, for the current class, Malaysia is one of the most dynamic economies in the region. So what have you been seeing?
So I think when we look at the ASEAN or Southeast Asian markets, of course, we look beyond that, but we can definitely see continued growth. despite the fact that China's economic growth has slowed down and job market is also infected, we do see a lot of that transition of job opportunities into other parts of Asia, including South Asia as well. So definitely manufacturing continues to be a core area of focus. So a lot of the operational supply chain distribution pieces are definitely in need of good talent, especially at the MBA levels. We also understand, and similar to what Amy has said, consulting has been impacted by the slowdown of the hiring in the tech industry. So that domino effect also affects Asia as well. But it's not so much as large as the European or American markets as we observe. However, we are mindful of the fact that this is an area that students need to be careful of when they look at, because hiring has slowed down. And even if they do hire, we do see the hiring where they actually start the work a year later or at a delayed time. So that's something we advise students to be cautious of when they look at consulting markets or even tech. Also, similar to Europe, we do see a lot of the entrepreneurial space growing. The government is also promoting this at many different parts of Asia. Singapore has always been at the lead on this in Southeast Asia, but Malaysia and Vietnam, other markets are also promoting entrepreneurship very aggressively. Beyond that, we also see across regions, definitely there is a rise in interest in the function of product management professionals. So that's one area from a functional point of view we see as an attractive area for MBAs to go into. Data science and data analytics the hiring is still there, but we do see a bit of a slowdown as well in that area. So especially in the specialty masters in that area, there seems to be a wider preference to hire MBAs over specialized masters at this time. And I think GMAC had a survey recently where that validated the observation. So you can see that MBAs still hold an upper hand in the market hiring space for Asia and maybe beyond that. We also see in the sustainability ESG space, that's also a very strong area of growth for our students in the region to continue to target as a post-MBA market.
Right. And I guess our viewers, whether they're with us live today or the tens of thousands that then watch these videos in the weeks, months that follow, as they're then perhaps looking at the job market of 2025 and beyond and different predictions. So, a slowdown that nevertheless has signs of picking up. Catherine, some of your graduates, the examples of Invest Tech and Star TV, they're not waiting to get hired. They're going out and building their own empires. But in terms of this class of 2023, what are some of the trends that you've seen from the UCT perspective?
So we are, like the other business schools and regions, we are seeing still a very hot job market for MBAs. A lot of our MBAs are, in fact, going into consulting. And one of the things about Africa is we are always looking for talent. People are always looking for talent, but a lot of the organizations that we work with are not only looking to place people on the continent. So we have basically two groups of people who come to Cape Town for their MBA. One group of people are looking to stay on the continent, oftentimes by building their own organizations. We have a very strong financial services industry here, a lot of growing tech, both in South Africa, but also in places like Nigeria and Kenya, and people who want to become a part of that, and who really, again, are seeing new opportunities and are trying to bring some of what they've seen in tech in Silicon Valley, in Europe and in Asia into this rapidly growing continent. They're coming to us and then they're ending up in places like Nairobi. But we also have another group of students who are coming in who are looking for a bit of an adventure. They're looking for something different. They are coming in maybe from the US, from Canada, from elsewhere, from Europe. They spend some time here with us, and then they're really looking to go back to their home countries or elsewhere. And one of the things we really specialize in is we have a global alumni network, and we also have a very, very strong bilateral exchange program. So we have nearly 50 schools which our students can do exchange programs with while they're students at UCT. And as a result, we encourage our students to think about where they'd like to work. And that gives our students visibility into, but also experience and boots on the ground around the world, so that they can really position themselves into the job markets that are making the most sense at the time. We also have a very flexible program. So one of the things that I'm most proud of in the UCT GSB MBA is although we have a 1-year full-time MBA, we actually also have a 2-year part-time MBA, but our 1-year full-time MBA, a lot of people, when they talk about a 1-year MBA, they really think of it as being a little bit too short to get what they need to out of the program as well as the job search. So what we have is a 1-year MBA where we are in classes for a year, but then our students have an extra 6 months of time when they're technically students, but when they have the opportunity to either do an exchange program, to extend their job search, to do an internship, or to, in some cases, write cases or write articles with our faculty. And that really takes some of the pressure off. They're still students. They still have visas in South Africa. They are still students on LinkedIn, but it gives them an opportunity to try new things and to really think about what their next step is going to be. And so that really pays off. So last year, we placed 100% of our students within 3 months of graduation. And this year, again, we have a lot of students who are entertaining multiple rounds of interviews. And although we're still early in the year, I think things are looking very, very good for our MBAs. And again, as we're looking at slowdowns in one area, I think it's really important. I think this is something that all 3 of these schools are able to do. It's really important that students are at schools which are able to place people around the world, because again, these areas are not necessarily correlated in terms of how fast the job market or how hot the job market is.
There are 2 themes there that, Amy, I'd like to carry on with. Catherine's talked about, of course, how the MBA for many is this adventure or an opportunity to gain the sort of international experience that all 3 schools offer. And of course, with the 1-year program at Rotterdam, the intensity, everything that you're fitting in. As we translate that to careers, we know that there'll be courses in finance and strategy, digital marketing, supply chain, and everything else. But I always feel that the level of deeply personalized support that you and your colleagues in the careers team offer, it is so much part of this transformational experience. So talk us through, gaining that level of interaction with coaches, experts. How do you work with all of the RSM students in their professional development?
Yeah, well, we really put a lot of effort into that, as you said, and we have 4 full-time coaches that our students have access to. So basically, they can have one-on-one meetings with the coaches. And I mean, as you also mentioned, an MBA should really be a transformative experience. It's not like an MSc program where you just follow classes, large scale. You really have a lot of personalization in an MBA. We also try to have our students really think and reflect a lot about, what do you want to change? Most people who start an MBA, a lot of them want to change industries or, move into a different career. So we really help give them the tools. We call it a backpack, fill their backpack with personal things that they need. We also have a lot of contact with our alumni. So we have a mentor me program. So students who have already gone through the MBA process and have moved on maybe to their 2nd or 3rd job come in and work also with our students, give them tips. We have really a large network there, and again work a lot with industries that come in and give presentations on certain job sectors. So we really try to get a feeling every year when a new cohort comes in, what did this group of students want to do? So, are they focusing this year more on sustainability, or do they want to do more consulting or manufacturing? Like, what are their interests? And a lot of times we see that during the course of the program, the kinds of industries they thought they were interested in the beginning, they sort of change, like, oh, maybe I actually don't want to do this, because the people that they have in and talks with the coaches, they realize, oh, maybe that's not what I want to focus on, or I decided that maybe I'm really strong in this kind of thing, and that you want to develop that further. So we really try to take an individual approach on that.
Are you nudging them, Amy? If somebody comes in and says, the Netherlands, you have all of these multinationals, and I would like this position at this company, and encouraging them, what an opportunity to explore and talk with their peers, with alumni of the school, and really embrace the different opportunities that are open to them.
Yeah, I think, just the opportunity to interact with other students and the alumni who have been there themselves, and maybe some of them wanted to, they wanted a jump in salary or something, and then they realized maybe those things aren't so important to me. In the Netherlands, I think we're quite famous for the work-life balance. So, and we're finding that certainly the younger generation coming into the MBA programs now, they don't want to work 70 hours a week. They want to have, time with their kids, but also have a good career. So, how do you find the magic balance? And I think those are some of the themes that are starting to come up now, and that we, really try to explore as well. So, self-care and well-being is also very important. It's also something that we are trying to bring also into RSM for staff, but also for our students. So
as Dongwook, as we think about that Dutch backpack that is filled with new skills, experience, perhaps a greater self-confidence, at ASB, they can mingle with central bankers. 50% of the classes are delivered by Sloan faculty. They spend the last 3 weeks in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and can go on to extend with the MSMS at Sloan. So many choices. How do you like to start that idea of finding the right next steps of their professional and personal development?
So I think I have to piggyback on what Amy's saying, because we have a very similar approach to supporting our students in their career development journey and overall MBA journey as a whole. Coaching and advisory sits at the core of our services. We try to take a very bespoke approach. And as Catherine also mentioned, every individual has a different need. And because of the intimate size of the class that ASB has, of an average of 40 per cohort, we're able to afford a lot of our resources to spend time with our students at a personal but also collective level. So we usually have about 10 to 12 external coaches and added on by in-house coaching in the career office that support the career development journey. And of course, we also have business coaches who support our students during their action learning projects when they're abroad doing solving business problems. So those are more semi-retired CEOs or professionals in the space who are able to help look at business problems from a different angle than they would have theoretically. Of course, we have the faculty support. So every student has a tremendous amount of resource given both from a faculty/coaching point of view, as well as all the cases and the classroom, I think, theory and knowledge that we share. We continue this throughout the journey, but also beyond it as well with our alums. Our new dean, Sanjeev Sharma from MIT as well, he has brought in this new initiative where all of our alums, including current students, are able to have access to our executive education programs. So almost like a lifelong learning concept. We don't believe a year or 2 years in school is going to be enough to continue to sharpen those razors that have been harnessed during the school, but we need to continue to keep them sharp beyond graduation and make sure it's relevant. So we bring them onto campus as best as possible, either virtually or physically. So those are the kind of holistic approaches that we take to show the support to our students and our alums throughout their journey with ASB.
As we think about that lifelong experience, Catherine, when we were together for Centre Court last year, of course, we talk about big data, business analytics, all of these fields that are emerging at such a rate. But I don't think we talked much about AI, and we didn't even whisper ChatGPT. It wasn't on the radar screen. And suddenly here we are 12 months later. So as you think about skill sets and a career that is not just that first job coming out of the GSB, but the 5, 10, 30 years that follow, how do you encourage your students to think about change, uncertainty, technological advancement that are all, they're going to be wrestling with in the subsequent stages of their career?
Yes, so this is a great question. I like to tell my students that in all probability, the job that they have in 20 years' time is going to be in a sector that doesn't exist, let alone a job that doesn't exist. And so the question then is, again, not just what you learn today in terms of skills, in terms of specifics, but how you learn how to think, how you learn how to engage with people, how you understand who you are as a leader. And just to add on to a few of the things that we've been hearing, we also take a very similar approach with in-house coaches, but we also assign our students to alumni who are trained coaches, but we're trying to match them to a sort of general interest area. So that's both geographic and in terms of their interest. So if we have somebody who wants to do finance in, let's say, the UK, we'll find an alumnus who is in our database and put them together. And one of the goals of that is, of course, to help them understand what a future in that area would look like. But part of that is because so much of what MBAs are looking for during the program and after the program is thinking about what their lives are going to look like, thinking about what it is that they need to have a successful career in a particular sector, and putting a current MBA student or a recent graduate together with an alumnus in their desired geography, in their desired sector, really allows those two people to begin what's usually a very long relationship, which is a sort of a semi-formal mentor-mentee relationship. I think one of the things that's hard is, as an MBA, people often feel a little bit nervous about how they're going to find the mentors who will really shape the way that they think about the world, how they'll find people who can give them advice throughout their lives. And I think one of the great things about having a comparatively small school, but also a school like ours, where we've been running MBA programs for 60 years. So we have a full range of MBA graduates who are very keen on sharing their life experience. And so if you're interested in talking to somebody who is retired and who's really looking back on their career and who can talk to you about what it was like to build a business before we had cell phones, before we had computers that sat on our desks, and how they managed that kind of technological change in the 60s and 70s and 90s, to take insight from that change to think about what might happen in the future. We can do that, but then we can also have recent graduates who are themselves driving forward the kinds of AI and current technological changes that are powering business today and that will power business into the future.
Right, the network, it's so powerful, as you say. And I suppose, Amy, we've often been too binary to say, well, there are hard skills and soft skills, and it's so much more nuanced to put it into two buckets. Perhaps that's something that Dong-Wook can come back to, because I know that you've redefined hard and soft skills. But in terms of networking, in terms of preparing for interviews, to think of a very mobile and fluid job market, Amy. So again, perhaps back to some of those soft skills, interrelational skills. There must be other ways to think of them. What emphasis are you placing to give individuals that confidence in those networking environments?
We spend a lot of time working with our students by giving them, sort of training them on interviewing skills. We're starting something new, like how can you use AI to help, to utilize it to help you write to look at your CV, to write a better letter, things like that. These skills that didn't exist a year ago, how to deal with that. We have a lot of different leadership skills coaching sessions. So we really focus on how to become a better leader. And we also have these little sessions now that students can just come into an area where there's a coach available if you would like, to work with a coach, or you can also decide to work in small groups on, talking with other students about your job search, and sort of, I guess you would call it like a mentoring, students mentoring themselves, like what are you running into, and then helping themselves, but having access to, the professionals if they need that. So we're trying to do things like that.
Right. And you talked earlier about some of the Dutch roots of the school. I mean, you're a school that's deeply embedded in your community, in this vibrant city of Rotterdam, in design, and the biggest port in Europe, and so on. Are you looking at through the lens of Dutch tolerance and perhaps thoughts on leadership, but at the same time reflecting the fact that you have so many nationalities in that MBA group?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we also, train our students in. Yeah, the Dutch culture is, very direct. We're very direct people, but how do you deal with that? I mean, most of our students will end up in a multinational environment. But yeah, if it's located in the Netherlands or Germany, for example, you have different, people that approach each other in a different way. The Dutch tend to be very, our organizations are not very hierarchical. So you can, talk directly to the highest boss at the highest level, which is something a lot of our students are not used to doing. So we definitely also prepare our students and address those kind of intercultural skills. And I think that is one of the great things, because our classroom is so international. Students really have a lot of experience, dealing with people from really totally different cultures in the classroom. So I think that helps prepare them really well for the job market. And yeah, the Netherlands is very international, certainly Rotterdam. So actually, sometimes it's hard to hear people speaking Dutch when you go into the center of the States. So it's definitely a place where a lot of our students will feel at home, because it really is a melting pot here.
Right. As you're taking this trek at Dongwook in the UAE with alumni, do they remember the business modeling course or things about discounted flash cash flow? Or is it, I now have the confidence to speak publicly, or, in my interviewing? How do those soft skills, and perhaps you'd like to redefine that word, endure and really become such an integral part of the way that your MBA students have grown?
Right. So thanks, Matt. That's a great question. I think for sure what we do at ASB is very much about enhancing the networking skills to be market ready. One of the things, put aside the action learning piece, which in itself is an amazing experience that they can share, and they have insights to talk to when they're engaged with employers or prospective employers. But we also bring students more exposure to themselves. So what I mean by that is, going back to the coaching piece, we try to raise the self-awareness levels, because only then can one understand how they can be perceived by others. I think this is something that it's an art that we were losing in a way, and not just at ASB, but across different parts of the world. Maybe it's a generational thing, maybe it was COVID, but for whatever the reason was, we see more and more recruiters saying that we see those soft skills, or at ASB we call them smart skills, what we would see them as lacking the communication skills or self-awareness. And that's what they look at even more beyond those, smart skills, or the hard skills that we look at, the technical skills. Because at the end of the day, it's all about, are they able to collaborate? Are they able to lead? Are they able to manage, especially at an MBA level? And a lot of recruiters, when I'm in the conversation with them, bring that up many times. And it continues to do so. And a lot of the surveys that we do with corporates also reflect that and validate that observation. So we do a lot of work to help students with their growth mindset, to be coachable, to be able to look at a perspective that they weren't looking at before, to be comfortable with ambiguity, to have that openness and to think out of the box and be accepting to things that are challenging to them. Only then can they help themselves to be able to socialize and network better. And of course, we provide all the opportunities, be it action learning, be it treks. I'm actually going to South Korea in a week to do another trek. To be able to tell students or show students how black paint was made with YG Entertainment. So those are the kind of opportunities. The content is also important. Being able to have that exposure, to have the content and be there on the ground, to be able to say, I actually heard it from the horse's mouth, and say, this is the insight I know about the market, is something that not everybody can be able to do when they're networking with others. So that's sort of what we look at when we expose our students to be able to be better networkers and better socializers to get to the job they need to get the offer.
When I think of how transactional the measure of ROI that the FT, Forbes, and others have used to measure the MBA, and yet there are all of these incremental developments. You never quite know when you're going to use them. It could be in an interview situation. It could be presenting to the C-suite. My final question, Catherine, is going to draw on an article that I wrote on Monday for Forbes that looks at graduation day. and the speeches that a dean makes to the graduating class. That is something that you obviously think about. As we pull all of these wonderful threads of our discussion together, perhaps a message that you'd all like to impart to those graduating students. They've had their year or even the 18 months with the extended opportunities at UCT to say, right, go off into the world. What is the advice that you like to share with them at that moment?
So I always like using quotes. I will share with you the quote that I always tell our students, certainly on graduation day, and I unabashedly use it several times during the year. It's a quote by a Nigerian writer named Ben Okri. And what he says is, we can redream this world and make the dream real. And ultimately, I think that's what we do in business schools and in MBA programs. We invite people to rethink how the world might look. We invite them to redream the world, but then we impart the skills, whether they're hard skills, soft skills, or what I would say, skills that must go together, the communications capacity, the confidence, but also the mission-driven element, because networking is always easier if it is mission-driven. If you really understand that you're trying to do something which isn't just getting yourself a job, that's always important, but making sure that you are enabling change, enabling something to happen. What we at business schools do is we not only redream the world, but we impart those skills so that our students can actually make that dream a reality. We can make the dream real. And that is why I think business schools and MBAs and business school students in general are so important when we think about impact. I know that a lot of people say, why do I need an MBA? Why do I need to go to business school? And I think the real answer is what we do at business school is something that no one else can do. We are thinking differently about things, but we are communities of people who are thinking hard, not only about what could be, but about how to make that happen. And that's the thing that I think is really special at all three of these business schools, and very much in Cape Town. That's what I love about my job. That's what I want my graduates to take away. And that's what I want them to really feel for the rest of their careers. That because they had this transformational experience when they were in our classrooms, and then for their lives as they go through this lifelong learning process, that they are then able to make a difference in the world, that they can create value, and that they can, perhaps more than anything, have the kind of impact that will make them really pleased with what they've done with their careers and ultimately with their lives.
I never quite know where a Centre Court panel might take me. You know, your students, they have a year with you. I have an hour, and already I get inspiration. I think, you know, we've looked at not just the tangible benefits of the MBA, but, you know, Amy had evoked being a force for positive change, you know, values, a sense of purpose. Dong-wook was bringing in the Sloan idea of mind and hand, manus manus, but where ASB is perhaps the beating heart that then brings that to life. And Catherine, of course, you've enabled all of us to dream a little bigger and a little better. Wow, if we can achieve that in a panel of Centre Court, I'm a very lucky man. So Amy, Dong-wook, and Catherine, it was such a joy to start day 2 of the festival with the three of you. A wonderful tone to carry on through the rest of the day. Remember, all of our viewers will be having alumni sharing their experiences of RSM, Asia School of Business, and University Cape Town GSB. But to the three of you, thanks for a great session.